Okay, we are going to open. Stand by for the scroll. Okay, you have 1 minute. You have 30 seconds. "15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here in the audience. Today's Wednesday, April 5th. And thank you to those that are watching on KPTS and on the social media channels we have. So with that, we will call the Wednesday, April 5th meeting to order. Madam Clerk.
Invocation to be observed by a moment of silence. Please remain standing for the flag salute.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Roll call. Commissioner Lopez.
Present.
Commissioner Dillon.
Present.
Commissioner Beatty.
Present.
Commissioner Howell.
Present.
Chairman Meitzner.
Present. Next item, please.
County announcements.
Good morning, Nicole. Welcome to the meeting.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I am Nicole Gibbs of the Community Relations Partner of Strategic Communications. Sorry, don't know where I am today. Sedgwick County Fire District 1 is currently under the state of Kansas imposed burn ban during the month of April. This ban includes all open burning of any waste, including vegetation and wood waste, structures, or other material on any premises. Open burns can resume after May 1st, 2023. For questions regarding the burn ban or fire safety in general, please contact the Sedgwick County Fire Marshal. April 3rd through 9th is National Public Health Week. The Sedgwick County Health Department has the proud distinction of providing public health services to county residents in all neighborhoods and communities. Some of its essential services include food and nutrition education for mothers and children through the Women, Infant, and Children, or WIC program, no-cost dental services through the Children's Dental Clinic, and immunization, family planning, and health screenings through the West Central Clinic. Each day of this week has its own theme, and you can learn more about those at nphw.nationalpublichealthweek.org. The Register of Deeds and her team will be at the Veteran Benefits Resource Fair on Saturday, April 15th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. They, along with other Kansas Commission on Veteran Affairs and Department of Veteran Affairs, are teaming up to make it simple for veterans to access the state and federal benefits and services they have earned and deserve. This will be held at Town West Mall at the Northwest entrance. You can find this information on our social media and also visit the va.gov and look for the Robert Dole Hospital. For Sedgwick County good news, we're excited to announce that Commissioner Lopez has been named the 2023 Wichita Business Journal 40 Under 40 honoree. Everyone saw her sneak out at our last meeting to complete her professional photo shoot. And the publication profiling honorees will be put in the Business Journal edition on April 21st. She will be honored at a reception on April 26th for this incredible honor. Congratulations, Commissioner. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you for all that information.
Welcome.
If I'd have known, we should have done a proclamation for you or something. Commissioner Dennis wants to be a member of the 80 under 80 crowd. It's his words, not mine. Okay, let's get down to business. Okay. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Public agenda.
Commissioners, we all received an email related to the deadline at 5 o'clock last night. Any comments or questions? I don't see any. I'll make a motion to receive and file that.
Second.
Motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. And we also have, under public comment, we have two people signed up to address us, and it looks like they are on agenda items, or do they want to address us right now, or do they want to wait? I see a no from, I think that's Brett, Karen. And Karen, do you have a Karen Baxter? Okay, thank you. All right, okay. Anybody else that didn't sign up, want to address? I don't see any, so we will move to the next item, please.
Consideration of minutes. Item A, regular meeting minutes of March 1st, 2023.
Commissioners, if it's all right, we'll combine A, B, and C. We have the minutes, regular minutes of the March 1st, March 8th, and March 15th regular meeting. Is any corrections, additions, or comments on the minutes? I don't see any. I'll make a motion that we approve items A, B, and C related to the minutes of March 1st, 8th, and 15th.
Second.
Motion and a second. No other comments. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Thank you. Next item, please.
Proclamations. Item D, proclamation declaring National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week.
Okay, we've asked Commissioner Beatty if you'd like to read the proclamation, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers, firefighters, and medics is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who call 911. And whereas the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services are public safety telecommunicators. And whereas public safety telecommunicators who monitor activities by radio and provide information to ensure safety are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics. And whereas Sedgwick County Emergency Communications Public Safety Telecommunicators have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Chairman Peter F. Meitzner and the Board of Sedgwick County Commissioners do hereby proclaim April 9th through 15th, 2023 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. So, Chairman, I would like to make a motion to adopt the proclamation declaring National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. See other comments. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. And Commissioner Beatty, you're here to,
Yeah, here to accept is Laura Forci, our Director of Emergency Communications.
Yes, thank you.
Laura, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
A
If I may
well-deserved.
Just say
well-deserved.
one thing about my team. First of all, Laura Forci, Director of Emergency Communications. I'm often up here as the face of emergency communications, but I just want to say thank you to my staff, who's really the heart of emergency communications. They work tirelessly, long hours, giving up time with their families, giving up holidays, working overnight to make sure that somebody's always there to answer that call when help is needed. And so I'm just really honored to be able to serve them and to be able to serve our community in that way. And I'm very thankful for our team, and thank you for honoring them and acknowledging them.
Thanks, Laura. Commissioner Beatty?
Yeah, Laura, we just want to say thank you again. One of the number one jobs that we do here is public safety in this community in Sedgwick County government, and 911 is the link. They are the what attaches the service to the individual in need of service. And I've been with you guys in your space, and it's tense, it's busy, and your people handle their job with incredible professionalism, incredible compassion, dealing with people on the worst days of their lives many times. So credit to you, credit to the adjustments you're making to best serve this community, and just want you to know how appreciative we are of you and your staff.
Yeah, great comments. I'm sure we all echo those, Laura. How's the remodel going?
It's going. We are really excited about bringing that space that our staff works in into just a place where it feels really honoring of the work that they do, that it's going to be a beautiful space. It provides that footprint for that future growth that we're working towards. So we have, as of Sunday, relocated to our backup site, and we have that up and running. And the comm center at our main site is just, it's just not even what we're used to. It's so empty and so quiet, which is crazy. But my staff just rolls with the punches. They're so adaptable, and they are really excited about those changes coming, and we appreciate the support of the commission in helping to bring that to fruition.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Madam Clerk, do you want to get a picture? You want us to just stand up?
Okay. Okay.
Should we just stand or go down?
Have her come out, it's already easier.
Three, two, one. Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Oh, maybe when you got it? Okay, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item E, proclamation declaring National Child Abuse Awareness Month.
And we have Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to read the proclamation this morning. It says, whereas our children are our most valuable resources and will shape the future of Kansas. And whereas childhood trauma, including abuse and neglect, can have a long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effect that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse. It is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community. And finding solutions requires input and action from everyone. And whereas protective factors are conditions that reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children, effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the partnerships created between child welfare professionals, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and families. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community in partnership to build awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families. Now therefore be resolved that Chairman Peter F. Meitzner and the Board of Sedgwick County Commissioners do hereby recognize April 2023 as National Child Prevention Month in Sedgwick County and urge all citizens to recognize this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families. Mr. Chairman, I would be pleased to make a motion we would adopt this proclamation today.
Okay, I'll second that. Any other comments? Being none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye.
And to receive today's proclamation, I recognize Kimberly Osborne with the Kansas Children's Service League, also known as KCSL. There you go. Thank you.
And actually, I'm Vicki Roper with KCSL, and I'm going to be here representing the agency, but also the Wichita Coalition for Child Abuse Prevention. And thank you for adopting the proclamation this morning. We think it's really important. So I'm the Prevent Child Abuse Kansas Director at KCSL, and we are the state chapter for Prevent Child Abuse America. And Kansas was the very first state to adopt a state chapter. So we also have the first trust fund in this area that funds this work of any of the states in Kansas, and the first Department for Children and Families. So Kansas is a pioneer in this area and has been. We're about in our 47th year, I guess. So. April has been recognized as Child Abuse Prevention Month since 1983. That was under Ronald Reagan. And Kansas uses the blue pinwheel as the symbol for child abuse prevention and have since 2008. It represents happy, healthy childhoods, so it's reframing child abuse to a more positive, what we're trying to see for our kids, what we really believe in for our kids. The theme this year, which is really appropriate for our state, is Building Together. Prevention happens in partnership. And that is particularly true of the 60 agencies that have come together in this community to prevent child abuse and neglect as a result of a cluster of 8 fatalities in 2008. So if you are with WCCAP, would you please stand? So here we go. Okay. And so why don't you introduce yourselves real quick? Okay, Tom, do you guys want to introduce yourselves so they know who you are and where you're from? Oh, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Diana Shun with the Child Advocacy Center of Sedgwick County. So great to see you, and thank you so much for your support for Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Hi, I'm Thomas Fatkin. I'm with the Exploited Missing Child Unit. I work with Diana at the Child Advocacy Center of Sedgwick County. Thanks for having us today.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Sergeant Matthew Hall, Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office, Exploited Missing Child Unit. Thank you very much for having us today.
And I'm Kim Osborne. I work with Kansas Children's Service League with Vicki, and I'm the CAP coordinator. So thank you guys.
And her business cards and everything. So yeah, wait for the picture. Wait around. Okay. And Tom Stoltz helped start the Wichita Coalition for Child Abuse Prevention way back, and it has gone generations now to these guys over at EMCU to provide us with all the data that we use to drive the action of prevention in this community. So thank you. We know that the pandemic has brought with it a changing landscape in the United States, and we also know that we're still learning about how that has impacted child abuse and neglect prevention. But we do know that the risk for child abuse and neglect is much greater during times of uncertainty, during times when parents are stressed, during times when caregivers are struggling with things like losing their jobs, losing their businesses, loss of funds due to lack of paid leave, school and business closings, ongoing health concerns, which we're seeing more and more of, uncertain child care, which you'll be hearing more about, and food insecurity and just other things that are stressing out our families. So just as challenging life circumstances can, burden, parents and caregivers, it's kind of like a vehicle who's got too much weight to move forward. And so we're recognizing that, and we know that the difference is the community, and that's why the Wichita Coalition for Child Abuse Prevention and our work with you all and with this community is what's really making the difference. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, because Jim Howe always asks me this, is what's new? What are you doing that's new? What is different right now? What is happening? And the first thing is positive childhood experiences. Kansas is one of the first states to not only be getting data on adverse childhood experiences, but now positive childhood experiences. And so it's strengths-based. It's sort of a roadmap for parents and caregivers on what their kiddos need to prevent and mitigate the impact of adverse childhood experiences. So we're excited about that. The data has left the state, been approved by the Centers for Disease Control back in the state. Executive summaries have arrived, and we're waiting on the final reports. So that should be happening in the next couple of weeks. We also have started family resource centers in this community. The Kansas Department for Children and Families has funded 2. One in the Urban League with the Nonprofit Chamber of Service in near Northeast, 67214. The African Americans community is being targeted, but it's open to all. And then at the Kansas Children's Service League in 67203, targeting the Hispanic community, but again, it's open to all. And family resource centers are kind of the new thing in prevention now, though they've been around for 20 years, because they help families get into services. They make sure they know resources that are available to them, and they're able to get concrete supports. We have 6 agencies we're working with, and Urban League is as well, to get those concrete supports like food boxes or childcare or legal services or whatever into the agency so that families can have availability of those things. The third thing is childcare, and I don't want to rain on their parade, but next month you're going to be hearing during childcare providers from the Wichita Coalition for Child Abuse Prevention that we identify, one of the great things about community is you can identify what's happening. We were able to identify that Wichita had regulations on the books for childcare that no other community in the whole state still had on the books for both the city and the county. And so we were able to work, with both groups to get that regulation removed to help our child care providers. So you'll be getting a full report of that in May. Another way to help families is through family-friendly workplace policies that we're spending a lot of time on. Child care is the heavy lift. It's the big one. It was big in Wichita. Our data supported that was really critical. Families were leaving their kids who were the victims of child abuse fatalities with people they shouldn't be leaving them with because they couldn't access quality child care. And then policies like paid sick leave is also big because, as you could tell during COVID, people that didn't have paid sick leave were going to work sick and spreading, and it was shutting businesses down and making things worse. And so, those are a couple of the policies that have really been impacted through COVID. This year, what you can do, we're coming up pinwheels with Pinwheel Gardens, and you'll get packets, and in your packets, Kim's the contact to be able to get pinwheels, to plant pinwheel gardens, to show your support of child abuse prevention work, and make sure that, kids are happy, healthy, and prepared to succeed as they all enter school. We also want you to follow our agencies on social media, and both Kansas Children's Service League and the Child Advocacy Center are having a training a day around ACEs, positive childhood experiences, resilience. Connections matter. That's the new thing in the field. In businesses, connections matter. Connections matter in our agencies. Connections are mattering everywhere. The research is really supporting that. So I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Chairman. Vicki, again, thanks for being here and for
sharing got a lot of information. My first question is, are these good for 30 miles an hour? Because yesterday, that's about what the wind speed was yesterday. I was going to just tear this thing up, I'm afraid. But anyway, no, in seriousness, I've been focused on juvenile justice issues for a long time, but really that's the secondary problem. The first problem in most cases is child abuse and neglect. And so KCSL is a known leader in this area of problem for our community. And so I appreciate what KCSL does. And for those other folks, we didn't mention ICAC this morning, but EMCU and CAC obviously are huge, important parts of our community. We need what you do, and thank you for what you do. Again, you're dealing with sometimes the aftermath of a bad situation, but you talked a lot today about prevention, and I like that. I think that's the key, is we need to get to the source of some of these problems and start at the very basis, rather than dealing with the putting Band-Aids on the problems at the end of the day. Let's prevent these injuries at the beginning. So I appreciate what you do, and I don't really have any other questions. I wanted to say thank you for your services to our community. It is incredibly difficult and complicated problem, but I'm glad you guys are involved in it and do what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, thank you. Thanks for the packet and the information. The schedule of events, you're all over the state, so that's really nice that you're everywhere in the state. So.
Yeah, we are everywhere in
Very
the
good.
state. So,
All right.
and this is the first time in my 43 years working that prevention has been such a focus. It's like it's time, for everybody to come together, that the solution is really to prevent this problem. So thank you, and thank you,
You bet.
Jim Howe.
Okay. You want to step in front of us, so we'll take a picture.
Okay.
We'll step behind you. Once you get in front of the chairs. Is that easier this way?
Packed in here. Okay, good.
Thanks again. You bet.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Appointments. Item F, accept the resignation of Frederick Freeman from the Sedgwick County Community Corrections Advisory Board.
Mr. Papoon?
Mr. Chairman, Mike Papoon, County Councilor. Item F is the resignation of Mr. Freeman. We've received his request to resign from the Sedgwick County Community Corrections Advisory Board and ask you to accept the resignation.
Okay. Is any questions or comments? If not, I make a motion that we approve and accept the resignation of Frederick Freeman.
Second.
Motion and a second. Being no questions, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Next item, please.
Item G, resolution appointing Hazel Stabler to the Sedgwick County Mental Health Advisory Board.
Mr. Papoon?
Mr. Chairman, Mike Papoon again, County Councilor. If it pleases the board, we can take items G, H, and I together. They all three involve the same county board, Sedgwick County Mental Health Advisory Board. This is a board that's very important to the county, 15 members. Each county commissioner gets 3 appointments each, or recommends 3 appointments each. They give guidance and make recommendations regarding the many mental health programs that Sedgwick County has. Items G and H are recommendations by Commissioner Lopez. Item G is recommending Hazel Stabler to this board. Item H is recommending Dr. Jessica Provines to the board. And item I is recommendation by Commissioner Beatty, and he is recommending Logan Bradshaw to the board. All 3 recommendations are in proper form. I ask you to approve the recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Commissioner Lopez?
Okay.
First, I just really want to thank Hazel and Dr. Provines for wanting to do this. Hazel, as a lot of us know, she serves as a USD 259 Board of Education member, and so having that voice for our children, I think, is going to be really important as an addition. And then Dr. Jessica Provines does a lot with WSU and with Suspenders for Hope, which is another great program that deals with suicide prevention. And so I just think that both of these women are going to be a great addition to this board and appreciate their time and commitment to being on this.
Okay. Commissioner Beatty.
Chairman. My appointment, Logan Bradshaw, she's not here today. I don't see her anyhow, but very excited, very grateful that she's willing to serve. She works in housing department over at City of Wichita, actually. And she and I's conversation has really been about the impact of housing on mental health. And she has a sincere interest on really trying to move the affordable housing conversation and its impact on the overall health of our community. So she's a great addition. She understands the need for collaboration in this space, and I'm grateful that she's willing to serve in this capacity. Mr. Papoon is very correct. This is an incredibly important board, advisory board for our county, so I'm grateful that Logan's willing to serve.
Okay. With that, I'll make a motion that we approve all the four candidates as
second.
Motion and a second. No other comments. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. And those that are here, we're going to swear in.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning,
Please raise your right hand.
Kelly.
I do solemnly swear I support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Kansas, and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Sedgwick County Mental Health Advisory Board, so help me God.
I will.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you to the county commissioners, especially Commissioner Lopez, for the ability to serve in this capacity and help to continue to support the mental health of our community. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for willing to serve. Anybody else be sworn in? Nobody else? Okay. All right. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
New business, item J, Sedgwick County Extension Center quarterly update.
Okay, Dr. Brantley, you're here. Good. Good to see you.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here today and to talk about Extension. As you know, we focus on providing unbiased, research-based information to the people of Sedgwick County. And this is usually done through our four main areas, such as agriculture, horticulture, family and consumer sciences, community vitality, and 4-H youth development. We appreciate your continued support of our programs, and we're here to talk about one of our areas that has a considerable impact in the county. It's the horticulture programming, and I would like to introduce my colleague Matthew McKernan, our horticulture agent.
Okay. Good morning, Matthew. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. As Dr. Brantley said, my name is Matthew McKernan, and I'm the horticulture agent for the Sedgwick County Extension Office here in the county. My role is to provide community education related to the landscape, and so I primarily try to educate the public about trees, shrubs, flowers, turf grass, and all the insects and diseases that go along with those areas. I've served in this role for approximately 8 years now, and primarily within the Sedgwick County community, I work with three primary audiences. I work with a home gardener, I work with our landscape industry, which includes the lawn and landscape companies, the arborists, the golf courses, the sod producers, the nurseries and greenhouses, and those sort of businesses in our community. And I also work with our Sedgwick County Extension Master Gardener volunteers. Today, I'd like to share with you a little bit about what our program has been up to so far this year, inform you and invite you to some of our upcoming events and activities this year, and introduce you to some of our incredible Extension Master Gardener volunteers who can give you a brief perspective about their time with our organization. We started this year celebrating the success and the hard work of our Sedgwick County Extension Master Gardener volunteers. It's an incredible group of people, and for those of you who might not be familiar with this program, our Sedgwick County Extension Master Gardener volunteer program is an educational volunteer program. All of our Sedgwick County Master Gardeners come from a diverse background, but they all share a passion for gardening, an enthusiasm for learning, and a commitment to helping others in the community. And so our Master Gardeners, to start the program, join a 15-week educational program where we cover all things gardening. Throughout that time, they learn from everything from fruit and vegetable production to tree and lawn care maintenance. And in exchange for that education, they commit their expertise and their passion to serve the community back with sharing that information back into the local Sedgwick County community. 2022 was an incredible year for us and actually marked our 35th anniversary of the Sedgwick County Extension Master Gardener program here in Sedgwick County. Since 1987, we've educated over 882 Sedgwick County Extension Master Gardener volunteers, and starting this year, we actually have 335 of those volunteers who are still active and engaging the community. In 2022, we celebrated the hard work of these incredible individuals who contributed nearly 22,000 hours of volunteer service within the Sedgwick County community. Just to give you some perspective on what 22,000 hours means, if we put that into a dollar figure, that's approximately $658,000 worth of time, or an equivalent of 10.6 full-time Sedgwick County employees serving the community each and every day. Those volunteers attended over 5,426 hours of training to continue to grow their expertise, and then turned around and shared that gardening knowledge with over 88,559 community members here within the Sedgwick County community during the year of 2022. But because it's 2023, we haven't let that slow us down any, and so we've been busy hosting a wide variety of events already this year. Earlier this year, we hosted a Design and Grow Gardening Conference where 283 participants attended both gardening presentations and hands-on demonstrations. The keynote of our presentation conference focused on understanding the climate to improve our gardening. 98% of our participants felt that the knowledge they gained increased their confidence and helped them make positive changes to their gardening practices. After that, we hosted 2 youth lawn mowing clinics. And the goal of this is to educate kids about how to safely operate a lawnmower. In the United States, every year, over 8,500 kids are sent to the emergency room with injuries related to lawn mowing and lawn mower injuries. And that typically includes at least 2 to 3 here in the Sedgwick County community each year. So we really try to teach the kids 4 things. We want them to be able to know how to operate a lawnmower safely. We want them to understand the different types of grasses that grow in our area and how to maintain each of them properly. And we also want to teach them some professionalism and some business skills so that if they want to earn income over the summer months mowing lawns, they know how to do so. And then the most important thing that we try to stress with the kids is the importance of safety and how to protect yourselves and others as you mow. And so it was really awesome to be able to see so many kids participate in this program, and many of them already by the end of the day had Facebook posts online, recruiting business and showing off those entrepreneurial skills that they learned at our clinic. This past weekend, we also hosted our Tools and Treasures sale, which was a fundraiser to support our Extension Master Gardener program and the various community outreach activities that they do. These are just some of the big events that we do, but our Master Gardeners organize themselves into about 25 different committees and do everything from school presentations with kids, supporting our community gardens across Sedgwick County, providing horticulture therapy lessons, doing public presentations to community groups, and supporting various demonstration gardens around our facility and around the county. One of the great services that our Sedgwick County Master Gardeners provide is our Garden Hotline, which is a free diagnostic service for all things garden and plant related. Our services help provide answers to questions that our community has, and again, we try to make sure that information is unbiased and research-based so that they know they can trust us and the information we provide. We make recommendations on what to plant, what to do, or how to address the problems that people may have. So far this year, our Garden Hotline has had over 520 visitors from the Sedgwick County community, which is quite a lot considering we really haven't gotten into most of the growing season. So anytime a Sedgwick County community member has a question related to gardening, they're welcome to call our Garden Hotline at 316-660-0190. They can send us an email at sgemghotline@gmail.com or stop by our Sedgwick County Extension office anytime Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, to visit with somebody in person. So with all of that, we want to make sure that we also inform you and invite you and all of your constituents to many of our upcoming events that we have going on this spring. One of the events that just started yesterday, actually, is our spring gardening classes with the Wichita Public Library. This is a partnership that we do with the Wichita Public Library to offer 5 weeks of free gardening classes to the community. It started yesterday, April 4th, and goes through May 4th. And we're hosting these classes on Tuesday and Thursday evenings. Tuesday is in person at the Alfred Wichita Public Library branch, and Thursday is online via Zoom. We've actually had great attendance in our online Zoom sessions, and so we've continued those again this year. All of these classes are free and are hosted in the evenings from 6 to 7:30 p.m. A new topic is covered each week. This week's topic, we started with basics of herbs, growing and preserving herbs in your garden. Next week, on April 11th and 13th, we'll be focusing on homegrown tomatoes. The week after that, April 18th and 20th, is Gardening for All Abilities, Accessible Gardening Techniques. April 25th and 27th is Gardening for the Love of Bees and Nurturing All Pollinators. And then our final week of presentations, May 2nd and 4th, is Gardening with Nature using native plants and grasses. The in-person classes are free, and so people can just show up at the Alfred Library on Tuesday evenings, or they can sign up online to receive the Zoom information, and they can register by calling the Wichita Public Library branch or visiting wichitalibrary.org/gardening to find out more and get started. Because we offer these classes on Zoom, we're able to record them as well, and so they're posted online to the Wichita Public Library's YouTube channel for people to be able to watch later. Another class that we offer is the K-State Garden Hour. This is another free gardening webinar series. Actually happens on the first Wednesday of every month, so our next one is today. And we'll be talking about growing to new heights using vertical gardening techniques. The new presentations are given first Wednesday of every month over the lunch hour from noon to 1 o'clock. It includes about a 45-minute presentation from our horticulture agents and K-State specialists from around the state, and about 10 to 15 minutes of question and answer with our participants. With all of the concern in our community about drought, we are focusing the next several presentations on that topic. So on Wednesday, May 4th, I will be co-presenting on drought-tolerant plants for Kansas, a challenging Kansas landscape. And then our June 7th presentation is going to be focusing on drought-tolerant lawns of Kansas and the warm season turf grasses that people can grow even during drought. Again, the K-State Garden Hour webinar series are free. We've had over 44,000 people attend these webinars since we started in 2020. So we've had great success and look forward to continuing that program. People can learn more by searching online for K-State Garden Hour or by visiting ksre-learn.com/K-State Garden Hour. The last event that I'd like to make sure to invite you to is our Spring Gardening Fair. This is going to be a community event designed for the whole family. It will be held on Saturday, May 6th from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Sedgwick County Extension Office inside 4-H Hall. This is going to be a multifaceted event, but we are really trying to focus on activities for the whole family. We'll have a lot of interactive booths where people can learn anything from how to grow with using hydroponic techniques, container gardens, ways to support pollinators, ways to improve irrigation efficiency and use drip irrigation. We'll talk about drought-tolerant plants suitable for our challenging Kansas climate. And we're also partnering with local garden clubs to invite them to have booths at this event to share with the different ways that they engage in our community as well. There'll be food sales, plant sales, guided tours scheduled throughout the day, and lots of make and take youth activities for the whole family. It's a come and go event. It's free from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., and it's a great way to help gardeners improve their success in their garden. And then in June, we'll also be hosting garden tours for the public. This is a way to help the public find inspiration for their garden and landscape, and will be the first weekend of June, June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So in closing today, I just want to introduce to you two of our incredible Extension Master Gardener volunteers. These two individuals not only spend a lot of time serving the community as a volunteer, but they provide incredible leadership to our Extension Master Gardener volunteer program as well. They help us organize and oversee all of the work that our program does. And so I'd like to introduce to you today Mark Kane, our Extension Master Gardener volunteer program's president, and then Carol French, who is our Extension Master Gardener Volunteer Program's Vice President. And I'd actually like to invite Mark up here for a moment to share with you a little bit about his experience with the Sedgwick County Master Gardener Volunteer Program.
Morning, Mark.
Hello.
Good morning.
As he said, my name is Mark Kane. I'm the current president of the Master Gardeners here in Sedgwick County. I'm a lifelong resident of South Central Kansas. I grew up in Newton, but after college I moved to Sedgwick County, and I've been here for 50 years or so. Right now I live out on the west side of Valley Center between the Little Arkansas and the Big Ditch on 77th. And ground's pretty good out there. It's a little bit sandy, so the water drains pretty fast back into the ground. And if you go down 8 feet, it's solid sand. And I know this because I looked down the hole when they built my house. I live on a well there. We put a well 40 feet down when I moved in, and I've had all the water I need. There's plenty of water out there. So I've always loved to garden, and for the past 7 years, I've been in the Master Gardener Volunteer Program. First thing I want to do is thank you for your support of the Master Gardener Program. I think it's money well spent in service to the community. We have, like Matt said, we have over 300 active members in the Master Gardener Program right now, and we all want to do gardening the right way. So we take our information from K-State, and when you first start out as a Master Gardener, they run you through like 80 hours of training. It's like fire hose information. You think you know how to garden, and then you listen to these guys, and there's just so much. And then to stay current, you also have to do another 18 hours of training a year. Besides the learning part, then we like to turn around and share it with the community, and with just about anybody that'll take the time to listen to us, we'll talk to them about gardening. That's how we get into doing all these events, usually leading up to the growing season. We have like a major event every month to highlight gardening activity, and we have minor events almost every week. One of the ones that I like the best as far as an event was in 2021. We were just coming out of COVID, and we didn't know for sure whether we could really do anything or not, because 2020, we were dead in the water. We didn't do anything. And so horticulturists suggested, well, maybe we can create some garden kits and give it to people if they just drive by in their car. That way we're not interacting too much at that time. So we got busy, and we were growing plants. We grew tomatoes, we grew basil, we grew parsley, we packaged seeds. We created a little booklet that explained how you make a 4x8 garden out of this stuff we're putting in a bag for you. And we even put QR codes on it, which would link you to videos where we'd have Master Gardeners try to explain to you how it is you go about gardening. Anyway, we got to May 1 of that year, and we had 1,000 of these kits. Some of them were vegetable kits, some of them were pollinator flower kits, and people just lined up over at the Extension Center. And so for 3 hours, we handed out, these garden kits, and nothing but smiles that day. So that was a lot of fun. Another one that we did last year was, first year we did the Spring Garden Fair, and prior to COVID, we used to do like Tree Fest and Herb Day, and it was kind of focused. Well, we switched the name to Spring Garden Fair because we could move our highlight around a little bit without having to change the name. And so with that one last year, what we did was we had the Master Gardeners, if they had surplus tools, we brought them in, we cleaned them up, we painted them when we sold them at bargain prices. If we had like plants in our gardens that were extra, we had people just bring all those in, and we repotted them and sold them. And the good thing about those plants is they're all grown from around here. Sometimes you go to a big box store, those plants are coming from somewhere else. Well, these plants are from here, so we know they're going to work. We partnered with the area garden clubs. We had 9 area garden clubs come and give a booth at that event that day. And we also, of course, we had to give away cherry tomato plants. To me, with little kids, if you give them a cherry tomato plant and let it grow, you're almost guaranteed you're going to get some fruit out of it. So it's a good way to get kids started gardening. Like I was saying, the only thing that matters to be a master gardener is you got to have a passion for gardening in some way. Some of our gardeners, master gardeners, like to do vegetable gardens. Some like flower beds. Some like trees. Some like landscaping. They're all over everywhere. So as president, I oversee with the horticulturists we kind of organize into committees. We have probably, 20 plus committees focusing on different areas. And one of them is Community Gardens Committee. So they go around and support the community gardens. And I think they reported there are over 20 community gardens around the area that they go to and support and make sure that they're doing their gardening the right way. And they also get people helping with the plant-a-row staff so we can get that fresh fruit over to the food bank for people that need it. We can do that also. We have another committee that we call Youth Education. They're people probably, they just like talking to kids. So they go to the schools and they talk Garden Up and try to get kids interested in gardening from that vantage point. We have a composting and recycling committee where we just talk about, how do we recycle this stuff rather than throw it away? How do we recycle and reuse like the organic material that you have on your property? And then the last thing that I was going to mention is the hotline thing that he mentioned is we get a lot of calls. I think we had over 2,200 last year, and we're on pace to beat that this year. So a lot of people are calling us up. We don't just give them an answer. We try our best to give them the best answer we can, and all of that is recorded, and our horticulturists review the question and how we answered it, and if it needs correcting, they'll correct it. So we try as best we can to make sure that those answers are right. Like I was saying, I've been there 7 years, and the committee that I've been on the whole time is the compost committee. It really interested me, so I got into that. And with compost, the ingredients of compost are usually, grass clippings or leaves, and that stuff's free, it's locally available, and it's abundant. There's just leaves everywhere. So I'm kind of cheap. Let's say frugal. I'm kind of frugal. I like doing things that don't cost anything. So that interested me. You get that stuff together, mix it together right, put some water on it, and in 3 to 6 months, you got some material that's good for your garden. And that leads you to the second thing, which is how do you use it? And when I grew up, I gardened like my dad did. I rototilled, and then I planted straight rows and watered on the top so the leaves all got wet. And then I was pulling weeds like crazy all the time. Well, if you get into composting, you can take a garden and put compost material over the top, put your plants in it, and then add some more organic material around your plants. What's starting to happen then is you're keeping the ground temperature cooler, which is really important to plants. Because if you get above 80 degrees ground temperature, plants tend to kind of go into survival mode, and they don't produce like they would if it's cooler. And also it holds moisture, and you get the biological life underneath the soil that helps you if you'll let it. When you got that compost there, that all starts working. You get worms growing, you get mycorrhizal fungi, you get beneficial bacteria. These are all good things that help your plants grow better. The last thing about compost that I like is we do a lot of outreach. We go to the zoo on Earth Day, and we put up a booth, try to talk to as many kids as we can. We do a booth at Botanica at several of their events, and we do almost every event at the Extension Center. Okay. I just wanted to let you know that you're invited to come to that May 6th event. I'll be at the Water Conservation booth if you want to talk some more. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners, for your time today and the opportunity to tell you a little bit about what we do with our organization. Happy to answer any questions if you had them.
Okay. I don't see any, but we receive emails, commissioners, about various departments that we have, but it seems like every time, not often, but whenever we get an email about the Extension Center, it's always very positive, very thankful, very appreciative. And so it's refreshing when I see the title of an email about the Extension Center, knowing that a citizen appreciates what you all do. So thank you very much. Any other comments?
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'll make a motion to receive and file the quarterly update.
Second.
Motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Next item, please.
Item K, ZON 2023-00002, zone change request in the county from RR Rural Residential District to GC General Commercial District with protective overlay PO number 405, generally located on the south side of East 63rd Street South and approximately 1/4 mile west of South Southeast Boulevard in the Derby area of influence.
Okay. Morning, Scott.
Good morning. So in this,
Thank you. Okay,
all right.
I think we're ready.
Yes, sir. So in this case, the applicant is requesting, as you heard, a rezoning of the subject site from rural residential to GC general commercial and a protective overlay on the site. This item is being heard today because there were valid protests submitted against the application. In terms of the request, the applicant has indicated that they would like to develop mini storage units on the site, and so that is the reason why they're asking for the rezoning. In terms of the property, the site is generally located, as you can see, west of the intersection of K15 and 63rd Street. The site is 7.1 acres in size, and the entire site is currently undeveloped and in agricultural use, as you can see on the aerial. The property is located within the City of Derby's urban area of influence. It is also, a portion of it is also located within the Wichita Sedgwick County Unified Zoning Code Airport Overlay District and the Wichita Sedgwick County Airport Hazard Zone. And I'll provide a brief description about each of these. Since it is in the Derby area of influence, the Derby Planning Commission had the opportunity to review the case and to provide a recommendation. They recommended approval, and I'll discuss that shortly. The eastern 1/3 approximately, let's see if we've got some maps here. You can see where that red line is, that diagonal red line through the property. The east 1/3, approximate, of the property is located within the Airport Overlay District, which provides additional limits on what the property can be used for. And this is strictly speaking for the east portion of the property. These limitations exist in order to help avoid concentrations of large numbers of people in areas where aircraft accidents are most likely to occur and noise levels are likely to be higher. In this case, the subject site is located in Airport Overlay District 3S, which prohibits multiple uses, including residential uses with less than 40,000 square foot lots, hotels, restaurants with more than 3,000 square feet, churches, and a variety of other uses. In addition, the east 1/3 of the subject site is also located in the Airport Hazard Zone C. This zone was established to protect the operations of area airports by establishing height limits. In the case of the subject site, buildings and structures would be limited to 150 feet in height. The property owner may be able to exceed this height limit with FAA approval. So there's the first thing is that it's in the Derby area of influence. Second thing is that the eastern 1/3 is located within the Airport Overlay District, which governs land uses and trying to avoid concentrations of people. And then the third thing is that the eastern 1/3 is also located in the Airport Hazard Zone, which sets limits on the heights of things that can be put in place on that piece of property. In terms of context, north of the subject site are two undeveloped properties zoned rural residential and GC General Commercial District respectively. And you can see that here on the zoning map, the pink, almost purple color is the GC zoning and the green is the rural residential. Northeast of the subject site is properly zoned GC General Commercial and developed with a warehouse, self-storage facility, and a vehicle storage yard. Properties to the south, southwest, and west of the subject site are zoned rural residential and are developed with large lot single-family homes. And going back, here's the aerial so that you can see the uses that they're in. And then I'll flip back to here's the zoning map. In terms of the staff report provides information about the requested overlay and the screening that would be required on the site per the zoning code. The protective overlay would allow most residential uses and a limited number of public and civic uses and a variety of commercial and industrial uses. And those are specifically called out in the PO language. In addition, the protective overlay would place additional restrictions on the building heights, the number of dwelling units, and the building setbacks. Screening would be required for this property where abutting or across the street from residential zoning districts. In this case, screening would be required on the south, east, and west sides of the subject site. It would also be required along a portion of the north side, and you can see here on the zoning map where the rural residential surrounds it. In terms of review, on February 16th, the Derby Planning Commission considered this application. They recommended approval of the zone change with the protective overlay as proposed and recommended by planning staff. In addition, they included a provision that the portion of the site, the 1/3 to the east, would be identified as being in the Derby 2040 Comprehensive Plan Accident Potential Zone and would be subject to the restrictions of the Airport Overlay District of the Unified Zoning Code, which would take place in any case, but they are calling it out just for special attention. No members of the public spoke in opposition at that meeting to this application. On February 23rd, the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission considered this application. That Planning Commission recommended approval of the zone change with the protective overlay as recommended by staff and with the additional provision as recommended by the Derby Planning Commission. The vote was 12-0, it was unanimous. Members of the public spoke in opposition to the application, expressing concerns regarding an increase in traffic, compatibility with surrounding neighborhoods, and the impact of development on drainage in the area. I've got a graphic that will show the protest map. 11 protests were received for this case. That totaled 37.42% of the protest area. Therefore, the zone change, any approval of the zone change would require 4 of 5 votes. In terms of commission action, it is recommended that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the findings of the MAPC, authorize the chairman to sign the prepared resolution. Again, this would require a supermajority of 4 of 5 votes. Alternatives include the following. You can deny the application by making alternative findings and overriding the MAPC recommendation. This would require a 2/3 majority or 4 of 5 votes. In addition, you can also have the option of returning the case to the MAPC for further consideration with a statement specifying the basis for the BOCC's failure to approve or deny. This would require a simple majority. So with that, I'll take you through some of the graphics and maps. So again, here's the aerial with the subject site outlined in red. This is the zoning map. It also shows the location of the airport overlay district, which is the red line, and also a similar line for the airport hazard zone. This is from the comprehensive plan. It identifies that this property is located within the urban area of influence and urban growth area for the city of Derby. This is the map of the airport overlay district, which is from the Unified Zoning Code. You can see the property, which is outlined in black or entirely contained in black, and the red line of the airport overlay district. This is the airport hazard zones map, and it's tricky to see, but the arrow is pointing to the property which is located in the blue area, which is Area C. This is the protest map. The protest area is outlined in green. This is also the same as the notification area for the case. But in terms of the protest, you can see where they were received both in the red and the blue. The red counted towards the percentage of the protest area which exceeded the 20% threshold. Here are some photos from the area. This is looking at the subject site, looking at the storage units to the north and east, looking at the residential properties to the east and to the south. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Scott. At this point, we probably ought to make sure before we get into from the commission comments, we need to designate if we've had any ex parte communications, which I have not, but if anybody needed it, okay. All right.
Thank you, Chairman. So I did not have any ex parte communications before today. As I walked in, I met two of the people. As I walked in, we spoke very briefly. And of course, I had my staff briefing on March 28th. So that's all I had in terms of ex parte. I do have some questions after the other commissioners speak on that issue.
So at this point, Scott, thanks for explaining that. I know it's kind of new to some of us about the airport limitations, and that was well presented, and we've all been briefed in the staff meeting, but you really presented this case very thorough so we could all understand. Is there, at this point, we'll see if there's any questions for you, and then we'll go to public comment after that. Okay. Yes, Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Chairman. What was the Derby vote on their planning commission?
It's an excellent question. Let me see if I've got it here. It doesn't list it in my notes. I do have a copy of their minutes, so it'll take me just a moment to look that up, sir.
I see the letter says they recommend approval. I did see the letter from the city of Derby.
Yes. Okay, here we go. It's on page 7 of their minutes, and it identifies that it was a move to adopt the findings as presented with the comment about the accident potential zone. Dave Wells was the person who moved. Larry Gould was the person who seconded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in favor, and 2 members absent.
Okay. One of the things that's in this zoning change, it doesn't actually specify what will be built here. I know it's intended. I've seen some discussion, a sentence or two that says that there's an intent to put storage units, but that's actually not part of this discussion today. It could be a lot of different things as well. Is that true?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Does this also get into the issue of access to the property in terms of how, if something is built there in the future, how would the access from the people who are using that property, what would their access be? Would it be from the south or from 63rd Street, or can you please explain that?
Sure. At this time, the property is not platted, and platting is when the access to the property would be determined.
And will that come before us at that time?
It will come to you at a later time, but since it's not in process yet, it would obviously be after the zoning code, after possible consideration of the zoning changes. The one thing that I would emphasize on the plat process is that it is, per state statute, it is the Planning Commission, the joint Wichita-Sedgwick County Planning Commission, that will approve or deny the plat. It will come to you for any dedications, for acceptance of any dedications that would be necessary.
So we want to have a chance to weigh in on the issue of like road access into the property type of thing.
Not as substantially, no, sir.
Okay. Could we make that stipulation today if we wanted to?
Because the platting process is governed by state statute, I'm reluctant to say that you could. However, perhaps it would be an opportunity for you to review and provide comments to the Planning Commission.
Okay. All right. And then let's see if I have any other questions here.
I'm sorry, Kirk Sponsel, Assistant County Counselor. Going off of what Scott Wadle said, the statutes do allow the counties essentially to establish their own subdivision regulations. And so it was within our subdivision regulations, it was established by the commission that the MAPC would be the ones determining this. I think there would have to be a change in order for that to be considered. There's a clear distinguishment between use of property versus access, things of that nature. So I don't necessarily think that that should be considered today as part of your determination.
I guess my only thought would be that there is, apparently this has been a discussion before now. That's why I'm bringing this up. Again, that 1 minute I had to exchange here with the people in the audience, I'm sure they'll speak to this, but that's one thing they raised already. So one thing I understand is that this road to the south on the red line that outlines the property, subject property, there's a road that goes on the south side of that red line that is a dead-end road. And it services a number of homes back in there. So I don't think it was described that way necessarily, but that is in fact the way it is. Let's see if I have any other questions here. I think right now that's my only question so far. Yes, sir.
And sir, I was recently reminded about one of the unique features of this property is that it is located in the Derby extraterritorial subdivision authority area. So in fact, the plat of the property will go to the city of Derby. It will not go to the Wichita-Sedgwick County Planning Commission. It'll go to Derby's Planning Commission.
But this is not inside the city of Derby. This is outside the city.
That's correct. But in certain portions of the county, some of the smaller cities are afforded the opportunity to review and approve the plats, and that is the case in this situation.
Is that a local policy, or is that something that's defined in statute somewhere?
It's defined in the subdivision regulations.
Yeah, and Kirk Sponsel, again, Assistant County Counselor. I believe that it's within the statutes that they talk about essentially a potential 3-mile radius around cities where they might impose their subdivision regulations. Consistent with that, in our own subdivision regulations, we've carved out those correlating areas for Derby, Hayesville, and I think a couple of other areas where we say, yep, our subdivision regs don't govern, we're not addressing these, those go with the cities.
So they have a voice and we don't have a voice on this. So we're the elected officials for these folks in the unincorporated area, and we don't have a voice to advocate any impact on this decision then.
And if I may just have a moment to search out the relevant statute in question.
And I'll just say, I don't know what Derby's intent is. I'm a little surprised that I'm very supportive of the city, and I want to let them know I'm not challenging what they've done here, but I don't think there's any intent for the city to actually grow out in that direction. It seems like the K-15 is their western boundary for the most part. They've never really, I'm aware of, shown any intent to grow out in that direction. So the fact that they've got this kind of influence is really a little surprising. I do think that the accident prevention zone is a huge issue for Derby because they're very supportive of the Air Force Base, and that is that's an issue that potentially would create conflict with the McConnell Air Force Base, and so we want to make sure we protect that policy. But other than that, I'll just stand and listen to the comments from this point forward. And Kirk, you're welcome to give us an answer later if you like.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, any other comments at this point? I don't see any, so we will now proceed to the public speaking to address us. So we had one person sign up. I think it's Karen Baxter. I'm sorry. What's that? Ms. Baxter, can you wait just one second? The process is we get to hear from the applicant first, and then we'll go to public speaking. My apologies.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Brian Lindeback, MKEC Engineering, on behalf of the owner and applicant. I'd just like to reiterate the statements about this is going to go through the planning process and platting process, if approved here today, through the Derby Planning Commission. Likewise, it'll go through their site plan review committee as well. And I know you didn't get the Derby staff report in your packet, but I would like to kind of reiterate some of the things that were spoken to in their staff report, if I could. Of course, they're recommending approval. It does identify the applicant is wishing to put in many storage units there. It speaks to the fact that municipal services are not available at this time, or perhaps in the near future, as far as its merits to the property. They talk about this. The property is not suitably restricted currently, being that it's rural residential, and I think you understand the airport hazards with regard to that. So they're suggesting non-residential uses are compatible with the character of the neighborhood. They talk a little bit about the length that the property has remained vacant. It talks about the prospective purchasers of the property have a proposed non-residential use to which is an indication that the subject property is likely not appropriately zoned. They talk a little bit about the gain and to the public health and welfare. Under that heading, they speak to if the zone change is disapproved, the value of the applicant's property will presumably be diminished because of non-residential development will not be allowed. The impacts of the proposed development on the community facilities. Of course, when you develop property and it goes through the platting process, financial guarantees shall be provided through the platting process for the extension or expansion of necessary infrastructure to serve the property. It talks about 63rd Street has sufficient capacity to handle increased traffic volumes on the proposed development, and provisions will be made through the platting process to provide any necessary traffic improvements to serve the development. It does speak again to schools and other things of that nature, but I don't think that's relevant with the proposed land use. It does speak to the fact that there was no support or opposition to the case. And I think the most relevant here is it talks about in their comprehensive plan, it talks about the accident potential zone, and they designate this area to be in their B5 restricted commercial warehousing and limited manufacturing district. And they state that the requested GC zoning is closest to match that D5 or B5 zoning classification. So I think the main thing I want to just emphasize is that while we did allow for residential uses in the protective overlay, we don't intend, as far as today goes, there's no intention to develop the property with residential. It is planned to be developed for the mini storage units, and we'll certainly have to go through more hurdles as far as approvals with regard to improvements to the property, and then access controls will certainly address those at the platting level. And this plat will come back to the county commission for final approval due to it being in the county. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, thanks. Is there any questions for the applicant? Okay. All right, now we'll go to the public comment section. Karen Baxter, please state your name and address, and you have about 5 minutes to address us.
Yes, my name is Karen Baxter, 3930 East 63rd Street South. I have the residence which is directly to the west of the said property. Okay. I offered to buy that property several years ago from the applicant, and they denied it. I wanted to extend the property for my horse pasture. It's been on the market, offered as a commercial site. That's what it says on the sign. My only concern is based on 4602 East 63rd Street South, that puts the entryway on the dead-end road 63rd. There are two 63rd Streets down there. I live on the dead end 63rd. If the entryway is on the south property, on the south of that property, it will be a congested area for traffic. When the railroad is going, a train going through there every 10 minutes, the new 63rd gets backed up beyond the entrance to the old 63rd. It's a terrible, terrible, congested area. So my main concern is the entrance to that property, because right now the south old dead end 63rd is a very narrow 2-lane road. So they're going to have to extend the road there to accommodate storage units where they may have boats. Think about a trailer, 30-foot long trailer being pulled down a dead-end road and turning in there. It's going to be a terrible, they're not ever going to be able to get through there when a train is going by every 10 minutes. So my concern is, even though they say, you know, it's only good for commercial, I'm not the only resident that offered to buy that land. Several other residents offered to buy that land. She would not sell it. She was waiting for the proper moment. So do you have any questions?
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Baxter. Appreciate it. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just my one question is this. So you're by your testimony this morning, it sounds like your major, I just want to summarize what you said, make sure I got it right. You're not opposed to them developing this land at this point because they weren't willing to sell it. It's going to develop at some point. You're not opposed to the development necessarily. You're opposed to the issue of access.
Correct.
That's the number one thing. So if that was solved,
thing,
then you would not have a complaint necessarily.
Well, I still would have a complaint because it should be still, I mean, when they say it could be not good for a residential, it is good for a residential.
Yeah.
It really is. And because of the rezoning, they say they're going to put up storage units. They don't have to.
Right.
They can change. We could have 4 rows of duplexes right there. And tell me how they're all going to enter from the old dead-end 63rd, based on 4602 East 63rd Street South.
So let me bifurcate your comments then. So you have general concerns that if the storage units go in as planned, if that's what they put in there, and if they access it from 63rd, the new 63rd, not the old 63rd. Again, I know you might prefer housing in there, but that's apparently not.
I wouldn't prefer anything in there.
Prefer nothing in there. But in terms of what could go there, I mean, land will be always, especially near cities, land is always developed into something. So
right.
It's not going to stay like it is. It's going to be developed into something. That's sounds like that's a foregone conclusion. It will be developed. And all the things that could be developed. You prefer housing, but warehousing, storage units is obviously on the table here. Knowing that something's going to happen, your biggest concern today is the issue of access to the area.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And also my issue is that my agricultural land went up in appraisal 6 times. I'm appealing that tomorrow. Why, when all the other agricultural land around there was not raised?
Yeah.
I have proof. My property abuts to it.
Thank you for the answer to my questions. Appreciate
I
it.
thank you for listening.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Baxter. Nobody else had signed up to speak. So we will. Is there anybody else that wanted to? Since we only had one.
I would like to say a few words if I could.
Okay, sir. Yep. You come up and state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Randall Bonham. I live at 4131 East 63rd South. If you see in the picture here, just to the south of the property with the barn, there's 13 acres there. It's a hay meadow. Another concern besides what Karen was mentioning is our flooding issue. We have a big issue with flooding, especially Karen down on the end, because it all runs, if you guys can see the creek on the map there, it all runs downhill to there. With storage units, I know that's what they said they would like to put in there. I spoke at the last meeting that if there's going to be an easement problem, because of the address on the old 63rd Street, if there's going to be an easement problem, we have a hedgerow. You know, it's a narrow 2-lane blacktop. We have hedgerow. I think it would make much more sense to come off of the new 63rd. It's a 4-lane. And I definitely would not like to have lose easement. This is, like I said, my property abuts that property to the south, and so if they do easement and split it on both sides of the highway, then chances are they're going to take our hedgerow out, which I really wouldn't like. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say is just but also if it was a storage unit and they say they'll have a partition or a fence or something, they're talking about the big storage unit across the street. Well, they have a concrete concealment wall. So if you got cars and trucks and campers and trailers sitting there, I'm gonna look out my front door, and if there's not some sort of a partition wall, you know, chain link fix, it's not gonna do anything for, you know, you're looking out your front door and seeing campers and trailers and boats and stuff. So that's our concern. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Is it Bonham?
Bonham.
Bonham, I'm sorry. Thank you. I don't see any questions. Thank you. So I don't see anybody else, so we will close the public hearing, and we will now go back to the bench. And yes.
Thank you. Kirk Sponsel, Assistant County Counselor, once again. In response to Commissioner Howell's prior questions, there are a few different points I do want to make in review of the statutes in our code. So first and foremost, in reference to the question about the Derby's subdivision regulations being imposed, I would reference us to KSA 12-749A, and part of that section includes sentences that indicate a city planning commission shall apply subdivision regulations to all land located within the city and may apply such regulations to land outside of, but within 3 miles of the nearest point of the city limits, provided such land is within the same county in which the city is located and does not extend more than half the distance between such city and other city which has adopted regulations under this section. So that's a statute that establishes they may do that. Within our subdivision regulations, we do specifically carve out areas for Derby's subdivision regulations to apply and not our own. Following up on that, KSA 12-752B indicates that the Planning Commission or the Joint Committee shall determine if the plat conforms to the provisions of the subdivision regulations. So that's where we talk about subdivision regulations and how the Planning Commission determines it. Now, with all of that said, when we go to our own specific unified zoning code, there is a protective overlay in play here for this property. And one of the property and development standards that protective overlay may address is it may impose restrictions on access to abutting properties and nearby roads, including specific design features. So that is a potential option as part of a protective overlay. With that said, I would caution that any restrictions should be on a reasonable basis. There should be a articulable basis for imposing those specific restrictions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you. While you're up there, remember this is a zoning issue, not a plating issue that we're discussing today. But the last statement that you made about imposing restrictions, can you kind of expand on that a little bit so I understand what you said?
Yeah, certainly. So within this application, there's reference to protective overlay. The application of protective overlays are established within our unified zoning code. What those are, to be general, is protective overlays are certain additional conditions that may be applied when you're considering zoning changes. Now, within our unified zoning code, within the relevant section, it lists different things that restrictions and conditions that may be imposed by the Board of County Commissioners under the protective overlays. Such things include prohibiting otherwise permitted conditional uses and accessory uses, decreasing the number or density of dwelling units, increasing the minimum lot area width, increasing the minimum setback requirements, and restrictions on access to abutting properties and nearby roads, including specific design features, and then any other specific development standards required or authorized by this code. So those are the ways that the protective overlay should be limited to. Now, in response to your concern, and part of the reason I put the caveat in there that there should be a reasonable basis for any of these restrictions, is that the design standards are commonly part of the plating process. So as we've indicated, that would likely go to Derby. So in order for specific design standard limitations or restrictions to be imposed here, my recommendation would be that you equate those to specific golden standards and to addressing specific concerns with the golden factors.
Okay. Well, I've never considered a plating process during a zoning case, and that's what kind of concerned me on what your statement was.
And I certainly appreciate that. I'm just reiterating what we have in our code, and historically we have left, from what I've seen, we have historically left plating procedures to the plating process. But
okay. Now, just out of curiosity, the new street out there, does that have any kind of restrictions on ingress and egress to that? I know that whenever we have an arterial, they try and limit the amount of entrances off of and onto an arterial. And that's why they try and drive it to a secondary street.
Insight.
Sure, go ahead.
Again, Brian Lindeback. I'd just like to point you to item 12 in the protective overlay. This will maybe help you guys in this regard. I'll just read it to you, just so if you don't want to thumb through everything. There's a lot in your packet. An overall site circulation plan shall be submitted for review and approval by the planning department in concurrence with the zoning administrator, the fire chief, marshal, and traffic engineer. The circulation plan shall assure smooth vehicular movement and pedestrian movements and pedestrian connectivity when appropriate to the arterial street and building on the protective overlay. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So I think there is a point where the county traffic engineer will have the opportunity to review this in the future after the Derby Planning Commission or in concurrence with the Derby Planning Commission. So there's opportunity there for county input at a different level, and I think certainly the planning department will be engaged with regard to access. And certainly it'd be wise to do so prior to making full-on plans to develop the property.
Okay. And while you're still there, I would have asked Scott, but you're already at that.
Okay, thank you.
You're going to have to put screening along that west side and along the south side between the GC and the RR residential process.
Yes, I would just echo what Scott had said earlier. It's dependent on the land use, of course. But yes, if a proposed land use goes into play, certainly screening will be a part of that equation.
And the previous speaker spoke to not wanting to look at some of that things.
Certainly.
And so I wanted to clarify that is a requirement in our zoning code that screening be placed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't know if we got an answer to the question Commissioner Dennis asked regarding, is there any limitations that we are aware of about number of roadways that would intersect with the new 63rd Street? Or is there any site, if they were to add a entrance there, is there something in the code that would prohibit that from happening?
Looks like Lynn from Public Works is making his way down. So I will defer to him, but I would say that it would, because it's a county facility as part of the process, we would look for the access standards that the county has.
Well, I'll make a point here. On the north side, there's another storage facility there, and they've got, I believe, 2 or 3 entrances there. maybe three. I'm looking at that map. I can't hardly see it from here, but, and they're pretty close together. New 63rd Street has been, somebody else might know this better than I do, but I think that big tool store that has those access points on the north side, those were installed after the 63rd Street was rerouted. At the same time. Okay.
Let's keep this here, unless you want to call her up.
Okay. Let's go ahead and have Lynn Packer answer the question if it's possible. Thank you.
For the record, Lynn Packer, Public Works. The access management policy we have in place right now would apply to the multi-lane 63rd Street, the main portion of 63rd Street here. As for the old 63rd Street, further to the south, then we would not apply those same access management policies.
If there was an entrance into this property off of the new 63rd Street, is there some reason why that would not be something that could be
Based on what
planned?
I am seeing here, I have not done measurements and looked at everything there. Provided we can get our 660-foot offset, that would be something that could work. However, our preference is to have access off the old 63rd because then all traffic is funneled through a single access point that is already lined up with other frontage roads. That is our preference. However, it does appear we do have sufficient offsets out there. I would need to look at it a little closer.
Does the township maintain the old 63rd?
That is correct.
So we're talking about a commercial business getting access right off of a four-lane road, 45 miles an hour. By the way, a lot of traffic on 63rd Street, and
Correct.
there are a lot of places to turn off there. I mean, that's why there's a couple reasons why it's 45 miles an hour, but there's a lot of places to turn off there. And you notice just to the east of the subject property, there's three places on the south. I believe there's three places on the north. Right, you can see right there on the map. And if you go down to the west, there's all kinds of places to turn off. There's residential driveways.
And for that reason is why we would want to limit that access. There's already places and the access, excuse me, the old access to 63rd lines up with a frontage road to the north, and that is exactly why we would like to limit those access points off of 63rd.
Is there a way that you could add it? I'm not suggesting we do this today, but again, if we made a restriction, so to speak, on the access to this property, and they didn't meet your 660 foot, you could add a turn lane to accommodate that. It might be expensive, but there'd be a way to do that with a turn lane and a middle turn lane going for westbound traffic turning into the south into the property. Is that correct?
That would be an accommodation, would make that a little easier to put another access off of 63rd, yes.
All right. I don't know how we get there, but I guess I have one question I have a couple questions for staff and maybe one for the applicant as well. Thank you, Lynn. Appreciate it. Scott, what's the comprehensive plan say for this piece of property?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So the comprehensive plan, let me see if I can get the graphic up here. Here it is. So the comprehensive plan points out that it's in the Derby urban growth area. And so you can see it's that area that's in gray, so it's relatively silent about it. But in the Derby staff report that they took to their planning commission, they've got specific language about what was recommended. And what they point out is they really emphasized the accident potential area for the airport. And according to their comprehensive plan and the report in their staff report, they emphasize the use for warehousing, kind of low density in terms of people congregating. And so they felt like this was in line with their comprehensive plan.
Again, that's just the eastern section of that 7.1 acre property. So the west of that line, they would be still eligible for residential. For example, everything west of that line, do they have in the comprehensive plan, they have recommendation for use?
No, they didn't differentiate between the west and the east. And here's what they've got, sir. It says, the comprehensive plan, and this is for Derby, the comprehensive plan indicates the accident potential zone designation is most consistent with Derby's B5 restrict commercial warehousing in limited manufacturing district. The requested county GC zoning is the closest match to Derby's B5 zoning.
Again, I know this is just a zone change today, but in terms of screening, what type of screening would be required for this to go
Yes,
forward?
the standard is 6 feet high solid screening. Now they can substitute landscaping, but it's got to meet a certain standard if that's going to occur. So most often what we see is a wood fence that's 6 feet high.
Okay. All right. And right now we don't, because we're just doing a zone change today, we don't really know how many units or how many vehicles per day impact this would have accessing this property. We don't have that type of detail, do we?
No, we don't have a specific site plan. We don't have a specific plan for how it would be developed.
Okay, thank you for your answers to my questions. I have one question for the applicant.
Yes,
And thanks for standing for questions. I
No,
appreciate
that's
it.
fine. I appreciate it.
Regarding this issue of access, if we could get past that point, I understand this plat, I get it. But if we were to put a restriction on this zone change that said that the access for a commercial property would have to be from New 63rd Street, is that something that you would have an opinion on today?
I guess it would be, I would like to coordinate a little bit with Derby, given it's in their subdivision regulations as well. I hate to say no, but I think from just a normal land development process and collaboration and understanding, I think it would be best to collaborate with them and then give you that answer, unfortunately. But yeah.
Well, I'm not going to make a motion just yet. I don't know if somebody else wants to make a motion or not, but I think since we can do this, I think the way to solve for yes here is to deal with this concern. It's a legit concern. And I'm very familiar with the area. And again, there's horse pastures. It's a dirt road. It's maintained by the township. And for this to be accessed.
Not a dirt road.
Oh, it's not dirt?
No, it's paved.
Okay. Okay, I'm not aware of it being paved.
It is a paved road. I've been on
It's
it.
very narrow. Okay. So once again, well, I've been up and down that road. It was gravel, but now it sounds like it's been recently paved and it's narrow. But again, I think the concern is that you'd have a commercial business with lots of vehicles per day potentially accessing this property. And again, the nature of the community is rural. Okay, there's horse pastures all around that, and there are large properties that have a rural lifestyle, and to have a commercial business right there that's accessing the same road that those folks use every day, to me, it is a concern. And I again, if this was in the plan that says we would restrict the access, to New 63rd Street, I would feel a little bit better about it. But we'll see if anybody else has any comments. But I might be willing to support it under that condition. But without that condition, I don't know that I would support this today. I would not mind sending it back for them to add that condition, or I don't mind doing that today here on our board if that's something we can do. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I don't see any. So that said, I will make a motion to approve the zone change request as presented on zone 2023-0002.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Commissioner Howell.
I hate making sausage from the bench, but let me try this. I'd like to make a substitute motion that we would approve the zone change with a restriction added that access to the subject property would be from the new 63rd Street only and not accessible from the old 63rd Street.
Commissioner Dennis.
I won't second or vote for that recommendation because, again, it goes back to plating. Today, we're considering a zoning case, and in the future, we can consider plating. Thank you.
And I'm reluctant to support that as well due to us entering into the entering into the plating process. I want to respect and defer to Derby in the process, so I would not be supporting it if it gets a second. So there's been a substitute motion on the floor. Is there a second? And I don't see a second. Is there a second? No.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a second, another attempt at this then, please. I'd like to make a substitute motion. We would send this back to MAPC with my comments about the concerns of public access to this property.
Commissioner Dennis.
Mr. Chairman, in all due respect, Once again, I don't see any reason to send it back. This is a zoning issue, not a plating issue. So I will not support the substitute motion. Thank you.
Okay. There's another substitute motion or a second substitute motion. Is there a second for that? And I don't see any. Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Chairman, for a chance to speak. So again, my response to the previous speaker is that this is our only chance. So if not now, then when, again, if this goes back, and when the planning gets done, we don't necessarily have a voice. So this is it. That's my reason for bringing this up today. Thank you.
Okay. So, ma'am?
Planning Commission never notified us landowners.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Notified that was going to be brought up in the Derby Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for your comment. So the motion fails for lack of a second. So we go back to the original motion was to vote for the approval of the zone change as presented. And it had a second. So Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Oh, Commissioner Beatty first. Was that, okay.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
No.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, next item, please.
Item L, report of the Board of Bids and Contracts regular meeting on March 30th, 2023.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Hi, Joe. How you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Hope you're doing the same. The regular meeting of the Board of Bids and Contracts of March 30th has resulted in 9 items this morning that we present to you, and we're seeking your approval. The first item is change order number 4 for the D21 Improved Drainage Southwest of Hayesville Design Project for Public Works. And this change order is to accept it for this project from Professional Engineering Consultants, PA, in the amount of $33,803.90. Item number 2 is the precast reinforced concrete box and end sections for Public Works. This recommendation is to accept the bid from Wichita Concrete Pipe Company and will establish contract rates for 2 years with 3 one-year options to renew. Item number 3 is the 2023 NovaChip project for Public Works. And this recommendation is to accept the low bid from Conspect Incorporated, doing business as Kansas Paving, in the amount of $5,745,630.66. Item number 4, Zix Encryption Maintenance and Support from Division of Information Technology. This recommendation is to accept the quote from Zix Corp Systems Incorporated for a 3-year total cost of $192,132. Item number 5, Delivery Services for Regional Forensic Science Center. And this recommendation is to accept the proposal from Preferred Mortuary Services, and it will establish the contract pricing for a period of 2 years with 3 one-year options to renew. Item number 6 is the conservation treatment for the Sedgwick County Soldiers and Sailors Civil War Monument for facilities maintenance. And this is to recommendation to accept the proposal from Russell Marty Conservation Services, and it's in the amount of $73,750 for annual maintenance for a term of 5 years, and establish a contract hourly rate for any additional work. Item number 7, Westlaw Online Products and Subscriptions for the 18th Judicial District Court. And the recommendation is to accept the quote from West Publishing Corporation, doing business as West, a Thomson Reuters business, for a period of 4 years, beginning January 1st, 2024 and going through December 31st, 2027. And that's in the total amount of $146,696.40. Item number 8, West Complete Library Plan Subscription for the 18th Judicial District Court. And this recommendation is to accept the quote from West Publishing Corporation, doing business as West, a Thomson Reuters business. This will be a period of May 1st through 2023 through December 31st, 2023. And then the remaining years, 4 years, will pick up ending in December 31st, 2027. This amount total is $210,798.28. Item number 9. Election hardware software upgrade poll pads election office. And this recommendation is to accept the quote from No Inc. LLC in the amount of $192,480 and will include a $56,140 for the annual maintenance fee. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you may have and recommend approval.
All right, Joe, is there any questions? Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions on the historic monument. That's $14,000 a year to maintain that. Did I see that correctly?
Yes, that's it's a preventive maintenance program for that monument. Yes, sir.
What do they do for $14,000 a year?
If maintenance is here, it's a special, Andrew, you might want to answer that, but it's a special treatment that they apply to the monument to clean it, and then they have a special wax that would keep the dirt and other corrosive materials from affecting that monument.
Is this the only one we have like this in Sedgwick County's control?
I better not answer that question since I don't know, and we'll wait for Andrew. Thank you.
Andrew Delch, Director of Facilities. I cannot speak off the top of my head to every detail that they actually do, but this company is nationally renowned. They've been doing this work on this monument for at least 5 years or more, and it's a bronze structure, and they go out and they are cleaning that monument. They're on it for a week every year, and they're cleaning it with very fine point brushes and to detail, and then they are putting, as Joe led on, they're putting a wax or protective covering over the structure to extend its life.
This thing is over 90 years old. We just started this 5 years ago.
It's also on the historic registry, and I believe 5 years ago or longer. I know it's been going on for at least 5 years. Prior to me starting with the county, I believe this company came in and really did a kind of a rehab or restoration on the structure. And I can't remember. Do you remember what that cost? That was a lot more money to actually bring it up to a condition that it's in today. And by maintaining it in this fashion on an annual basis, we're not deferring the maintenance, and we're not going to incur a large expenditure again.
Okay. Well, and we didn't send this out for any type of bid. We did send it out to bid.
We did, and I believe there were
21 vendors.
Two respondents. And this company that we have, I believe they're out of Missouri, and they are nationally known. The services that they provide are not something that we've been able to source locally.
Is this made of granite, or what is it made out of?
I think it's bronze.
Bronze. I should know that, I guess, but seems like I guess if we didn't do this every year, I don't know what would actually what would be so detrimental to the monument if we didn't do this every year. I'm just concerned about government spending, and this again, almost $15,000 a year is a lot of money, and I just if we didn't do it every year, what bad thing would happen?
I believe if you can consider the bell. That we're taking off the bell tower and moving inside the courthouse, right? The bell is not on the National Registry, and it's not the same material. But if I recall, to restore that bell and make it look like similar to what the bronze statues would be, it was around a $50,000 price tag. If you wanted to bring the bell, actually restore that bell. So by us maintaining it and keeping it good working order, I believe we're saving money in the long run if we did not want to. We don't want it to look like the bell.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I know there's a public speaker who wants to speak on one of the items here, so I'll stop talking for a little while and see what he has to say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There it is, somebody that signed up for this item. Since it is new business, we can have public comment. So, Sir Brett Anderson, if you want to come to the podium, you can address which item you're talking about, name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Brett Anderson. My address is 844 West 54th Street North. I'm here this morning to speak about the pool pads. I watched your guys' staff meeting yesterday, and I know that they brought up that the pull pads that they use now are becoming obsolete, so they have to buy new ones. Okay, I understand that part. But then Commissioner Howe, he brought up some very good points that we have brought up before, and that is their ability to connect to the internet. I don't like that in the polling location. I don't think it's good. I think it opens up points of vulnerability. I understand that there is a security in place, but everyone from a Fortune 500 company to the government, they have all kinds of security, and they've also been hacked at times in the past. I would just like to say that Jim or Commissioner Howe also brought up yesterday that our data is stored on a third-party server outside the county, the state. Maybe it's even stored outside the country. We don't know that. I believe that information needs to come back here. It needs to be stored locally. I believe that with the pull pads, we sort of cave to convenience. We do things out of convenience. We always want stuff easy, fast. But I think we've compromised having our elections, my data, your data, the city, county, state's data, being taken care of by other people. I believe that the public perception is not good with that. They have questions, especially with the atmosphere that the country's in right now. I believe that needs to be brought back. Now, with that being said, I know there's going to be the question come up about what about we disenfranchise voters if they can't vote at different locations from where they live in their precincts. Well, if you have rights come with responsibilities. You know what time we vote. There's early voting. If you can't get there in time, that's kind of on you. So with that being said, if you vote in your precincts, you don't need a pull pad hooked to the internet. You can have localized pull pads with that information on it, and then you don't have the issues of your information being stored on outside servers. That's a concern that I have, and I wanted to back up the concern that Commissioner Howe had. I also understand you guys are in a position to where you need new equipment. Now you have to make a decision, but they also said yesterday the pull pads are good for 4, maybe 5 years. If you have 4 years and you have to buy them now, take the next 4 years to try and figure out a way to get that information back, get it localized, put that information and the data in our hands, and keep it out of the hands of everybody else.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Appreciate the comments and the suggestion. Okay, is there any other comments? I will, Commissioner Howe.
Mr. Chairman, I support, there's 9 things on today's bid board presentation, and I support most of them. There's 2 of them I don't want to support. Probably, at least like to talk about one of them a little bit more. But so I would make a motion, we approve the recommendations of the Board of Bids and Contracts with the exceptions of items 6 and 9.
I'll second that. There's a motion. Any other comments? Being none, motion on the floor to approve the Board of Bids items all as presented except for items 6 through 9, or 6 and 9. Don't see any other comments, so Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, we would approve item 6. I intend to vote no, and do that one separately so we can deal with number 9 independently as well.
I'll second that. There's a motion on the floor to approve item 6 as presented. No other questions? Madam Clerk, I'm sorry, Andrew.
May I speak? Okay. Andrew Dilch, Director of Facilities again. And I talked to a couple people in the audience as well. The Soldiers Sailors Monument, there was a group that brought it to the county a few years back. that we were not maintaining that structure. And with it being on the historic registry, there's a federal law that requires us to maintain federal registered structures or historic registered structures to the original capacity as much as possible. So we are required by federal law to maintain this structure.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. That's helped clarify. So there's I'm sorry. Commissioner Howell, you have another comment?
I guess my comment would be this: to what extent, maintain, that could be daily, that could be any period of time. We pick yearly, and again, it's $15,000. So I don't know to what extent the interpretation of that law. I don't know it necessitates that every single historic structure gets yearly maintenance with taxpayer money. Again, I don't know that that's the only interpretation of what that means. If we were to destroy that in some way, we'd be in trouble. If we were to modify it in some way without some oversight and permission, we'd be in trouble. But the word maintenance, to me, is not necessarily means we have to spend $15,000 a year. So I think there should be volunteers ought to be asked to maintain this, that have an interest in this. There are maybe other ways we can do this. I have a problem with spending $15,000 a year for something that is one of literally thousands of things across our country that I'm sure are not maintained to that level. Thank you, Chairman.
Andrew, who was the group that brought it to our attention?
Tanya Cole, Assistant County Manager. It was a local conservation group.
Okay. I thought they said, was there a military part of it too, or no?
I'm not sure on that.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, there's a motion, thank you, Tanya. So there's a motion to approve item 6. Any other questions, comments? Being none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
No.
Commissioner Howell.
No.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Motion carries, all right. Commissioner Howell, item 9.
Let's talk about item number 9 now for a little bit. So first of all, I realize
Is this going to be the factual version condensed, or I mean we need to talk about this and not be so immensely repetitive as we've been on this item, if you can.
So the public is mostly not aware of what we talked about yesterday during staff
Well, there's one
meeting.
that watched everything yesterday. It's a public. All that information was discussed yesterday. It's public. It's on the website, and it's reviewable by anybody. So that's what I'm saying. We can, but feel free to speak away.
Well, I guess I won't repeat myself then.
Well, you
but,
can't. You can. I'm just saying what it out of respect to everybody. But if you feel like it's important that you need to do that, then go ahead and say what you need to say.
I think as an elected official, I have a right to speak as well. And I think I have a right to speak during a BOCC meeting. So I apologize for wasting people's time, but this is important.
And we can, so on KPTS, we pay a contract that goes up to like 3 hours a day?
Till 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that again. Okay.
So first thing I noticed is this is not the only vendor of this type of software, this type of tool. We sent a single source once again. I don't know if we looked at other options or not. Is the state limiting us to no ink only? Is that what's happening here?
This was done through a competitive process back in March of 2017. So No Ink is the established vendor for the poll pads.
Right, but now we're starting the process over again by buying new equipment. We don't reconsider our decisions in the past?
Well, I believe the term was for 7 years through 2024. So that was the contract period. That's best I have to answer at this point. Is anyone else here from elections? But I can provide you a copy of the contract. It was
Mr. Thomas, you said through 2024. Does that mean that these are usable through 2023?
The contract for the initial purchase covered that period. You're asking about these new ones, the replacement ones, sir?
Saying that our current equipment, is it usable through 2023?
I believe in the notes they were saying they'd be out of support in December of 2022, and that's why the urgency was developed at that time.
Okay.
According to the information we were provided, sir.
All right. I'll just say a couple of things here. Number one, there's a lot of counties. There's a lot of counties in Kansas and a lot of counties across the country that don't do poll pads. It just seems to be the way we're going as a country. We're moving in technology. And generally speaking, I don't have a problem with these poll pads personally. But when I started understanding the data flow from the Secretary of State's office to the county, from the county to No Inc., which is hosted somewhere we don't even know where. I assume St. Louis, but it could be anywhere in the country for that matter, or even in the world, as it was stated earlier. And then they manage our data throughout the day, and then they send the data back to the county. We update our records, send our data back to the state. They update their records, and we download the data again the next day and put it back to No Inc. So this data is going back and forth, if I understand correctly. During the election day, we are not managing the data. The No Inc., the third-party vendor, someplace unknown, is managing this data. I think we have a state problem, actually. I know we've been focused on legislation a lot, but this is one of those issues, I think, when you realize what's going on, it doesn't sound right. I don't know if other vendors do it the same way. I do think that the number one reason why we have electronic poll pads is to facilitate the early voting. Basically, we have about a week or 7 days of early voting before the election. Our voters have gotten accustomed to having that convenience. And the reason that we have to have these poll pads is because there has to be an electronically updated, dynamically updated registration list, so you can't vote in more than one spot. On election day, you're only supposed to vote in your assigned spot because we've not implemented the vote anywhere legislation that passed in 2018 or 2019. 2018, I think it was. Still has not been implemented. So on election day, you can only vote in your assigned poll site. But before that 7 days prior to that, we have 16 poll sites we operate typically. And because of the opportunity to voting someplace outside your assigned poll site, this is what makes that possible. And my argument would be this. The legislature spent, by the way, enormous amounts of time this year talking about ballot boxes. We all might agree or disagree on ballot boxes, but one of the things that has been discussed is they are convenient, but it causes lots of people concern. And so the state's compelling interest in ballot boxes is voter confidence. And I think this is exactly like that. This is a very similar issue, voter confidence. I'm not convinced if these poll pads are so secure that they cannot be hacked, then I don't see why we have an arbitrary expiration date of when we can use these things, because they're so secure that they're not susceptible to viruses or hackers or anything like that. They're not accessing the World Wide Web. No one's watching YouTube videos on these things. These are very specific, dedicated equipment. They'll do one thing. That's all they do. And yet the compelling reason why we're going to replace these is firmware updates, patches, security patches, things like that, which tells me that they are in fact vulnerable to outside hackers. So once you understand that truth, if that's true, and I'm not saying I'm not the expert here, but if that's true, then we need to understand that we're giving up a little bit of security for some convenience, and that's my concern. I don't know that this is the right thing to do today. Here's the thing. We're doing this today because we're feeling rushed. We have a brand new election commissioner. We have not had a discussion. I brought this up a year ago. We've not had a discussion to work this issue outside what's happened in the last week. So it was presented to the commission. We had a staff meeting yesterday on this. And again, I don't know that we have to do it this way. It was just within the decade, we were using paper poll books. And paper poll books have their ups and downs, their pros and cons. But one thing you can say good about paper poll books is they are auditable. There's a paper trail of exactly what's happening, and every aspect of voting is in our fingertips. It's at our control. We're not giving it over to somebody else. Again, only, far as I can tell, 17 counties out of 105 are doing it this way. The other counties don't. There's places all across the country that don't do it this way. And so, again, we're going to spend $104,000 a year from this point forward and forevermore, and not reconsider whether this is in the best interest of election security. That's my concern. So, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve item number 9. Again, I intend to vote no. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Beatty.
I would just say that I've had countless conversations now with our new election commissioner who's been on the job for a couple weeks now, I think. And I'm grateful to know that she does understand whether people agree or disagree, that she does understand there is a perception from people in our community, in our state, that has concern about the confidence of elections. And I appreciate that you do understand that. And the onus is on the state, and the onus is on the election commissioner's office to demonstrate to us the security and the safety and elections and equipment. And I'm thankful that through our conversations that you understand that. And you understand that there is a need to do that for confidence in our elections. So I'm grateful for that. I do understand also that there is a sense of urgency that if we don't do this in some regards, that we may sacrifice efficiency in our upcoming elections. So I would just say that welcome to the job, but I'm refreshed in our conversations to know that you do understand these concerns, and these concerns for many, many people in our community, they're valid concerns for many people. So I appreciate that you understand that.
Okay, any other comments? Election Commissioner, you're more than welcome to address us if you'd like, but if not, you're okay we'll go forward with the vote. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Lopez?
Yeah, sorry, my light's not working.
Okay.
I would just say that we've had this conversation much longer than a week, and we talked about this with our last election commissioner as well. So to say that we're being rushed into this within just a week of hearing about it is, it's false. So I just wanted to make sure, and it looks like our election commissioner is going to speak on that. But we've been having this conversation significantly longer than the last week. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you,
Laura,
Chairman. My first time before you guys today. Laura Rainwater, Sedgwick County Election Commissioner, for the record. To correct you on the yearly maintenance, it's $56,000 a year, not $104 going forward, starting in 2024. The maintenance fee for this year will remain the $50,000. And I do appreciate your comments and concerns. I also have Mike Elpers from IT that he can answer some questions about the internet security. It's a very private, highly secure internet connection, just like we use in our banking and others that, yeah, they're subject to hack. Now, our old iPads that we used went out of date December 31st, 2022. They don't provide updates anymore or patches. So that is why we're here today. And I understand, I wasn't here last summer, that they brought this to you last summer. The former election commissioner, and it was delayed. So that's why we're here today. It is rushed. It will do away with satellite voting, early voting, if we don't get these. So if I can answer any other questions, I'm here for you.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Commissioner Howell?
Thank you. Again, let me just say welcome.
Thank you.
We are friends. In fact, I've known you a very, very long time. We, not to embarrass you, but we graduated together.
You look a lot older, though.
I know. You are youthful. I don't know how you do that, but no, I'm old. And anyway, we've been friends a long time, and I think you're going to do a wonderful job in this role. And I'm sorry to have a conflict today.
Right out of the gate.
I apologize, but let me explain my 104. You take the cost of the equipment plus the maintenance cost. And you said they're good for 4 years. Add that all together.
4 to 5.
Yeah, but yesterday you said 4. You said 4 to 5, and I said we need to plan on 4. So it's just because we know that 4 is an option. It might just be 4 years.
The vendor actually told us 5 to 7, but we're going with 4 to 5 based on technology and what IT is recommending.
So if you add up the $56,000 and change for the maintenance plus the cost of acquisition, it's $417,040 per this decision, so to speak. We're committing to $417,040 for the next 4 years. And maybe we'll get an extra year out of that. But if you divide that out, it's $104,000 a year, roughly. That's how I got that number. And then one thing I just didn't say, again, I agree we would have to get rid of remote sites. That is the concern. And that is really the policy situation here. Some counties don't have remote sites like we do. We've done this because it seemed like a good idea. We didn't have this concern when we started this, but now we do. And so I think that now we have deeper understanding. In fact, I would tell you, I've been supervising judge of many of elections in the past. I think I understand elections extremely well, and I've watched it evolve over the years. And I've never had concerns about our processes most of the, very, very rarely do I have concerns. This is one of my areas I have concern. Let me just state once again, we're sending this data out to a third party. We don't even know where they're at. And No Inc. has subcontracted this out in the cloud, apparently, that's being managed by Amazon. So this is so outside of our control. I don't know that I feel good about that. I think if the state of Kansas wants us to have remote ballot sites, then they ought to address this issue about technology and security. We need to address this as a state. We can't solve that today. But for me to say single source, spend this money, commit to this without a big discussion, and to former commissioners' comments about this being a ongoing discussion. Again, we talked about this last year before you were here, and I had the same concerns then. But in terms of this proposal, I saw this proposal for the first time after you were sworn into your position. And how long has that been? A couple of weeks now, right? So it's been very, very soon. I didn't get, you and I had a private discussion about this last week, and then we had a staff discussion yesterday. So I say this is kind of rushed, and we're given a single option to vote yes and continue with the status quo. I'm not lying when I say that, okay? I mean, my reputation is called into question when people say I'm not telling the truth. I'm telling the truth. Thank you, Chairman.
Commissioner Dennis?
Very briefly, while Laura's up there, I appreciate it, you being here today. The information that is stored off-site, is it any different than the information if I write you a check and I'm running for office and I ask for all the voter information for my district?
What do you mean? Is it any different?
Every time I've run for election, and I know Commissioner Howell has selected it, I believe, for the entire state in the past when he's done analysis, that information.
It's from the voter
database. One of the previous speakers' concern was that they have access to their information. Well, I want to let everyone know everyone has access to that information. It is public information on who's voting, how often they vote, which elections that they vote in, and so forth. Is that information that's stored on that site any different than I could get today or any other citizen could get?
No, it is not.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Lopez, I apologize for the
Yeah,
light
that's
not
okay.
working.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would also just want to mention that shutting down satellite voting kind of goes against everything that we should be standing for. And when we think about who that impacts the most, it's our working class, lower income families. And so to try to take their vote away from them or make it harder for them to vote just kind of goes against everything I'd stand for when it comes to
Well,
voting.
it would also do away with any future thought of vote anywhere, because
Right.
you can't vote anywhere if you don't have electronic poll books.
So I guess my point on this is just I think it's, I mean, it just seems like it goes against what we should be standing for as a commission when it comes to voting and making it easier and accessible for people to vote and not harder in any way. And this clearly would make things a lot more challenging for a lot of people, and we should be doing the opposite. So thank you for being here, Laura. I appreciate it. I know that you understand what the role of this, how important this role is, and there are obviously going to be people who have concerns with our elections, and rightfully so to have concerns, but I think that we've addressed those for quite some time at this point and have made it very clear that our elections are safe and secure. They will continue to be safe and secure, and we will do everything we can to continue pushing that forward.
Thank you. One other, you asked me, Commissioner Dennis, about, is it the same information? Yes, it is the same information. It is not tied to our voting equipment at all, so it has no bearing on, it doesn't track how you vote or who you vote for. It's just your voter information, which you're right, it's a matter of public record.
Okay, Commissioner Howell?
Just because I parse my words. The voter registration data is what we're talking about. Not when someone says voter data, they think
Right.
Voter registration. You have a right to vote. You're a citizen. You've registered to vote, and you did it by the deadline. And we know your address, and we know which ballot you're going to vote on. And so that database is a database of who has the right to vote, and make sure that you only get to vote one time per election. That's why it has to be very dynamically updated. Let me just say this for people who want convenient elections, there's an advocate position out there that says we should just mail ballots to every single registered voter and stop with the poll sites. That's an extreme position, but that's very, very convenient. I think we would not stand for that. We have a spectrum of ways we run elections, and there are some jurisdictions out there that do it this way. Some jurisdictions out there don't do it this way. They have less or zero remote poll sites. It's a policy choice.
Correct.
We make a policy choice to provide some convenience, but we also have a question mark on security, and so I do at least. And I guess my point is to say we're, again, someone that makes the accusation that we were disenfranchising voters. Absolutely not, because again, majority of Kansas counties don't do it this way. Majority of the states in the country don't do it this way. So at the end of the day, in fact, in the last decade, we didn't do it this way. We do it now because we want that convenience, and we didn't see a problem with security. We've evolved into this position we're in today, and now we're kind of stuck in it. We're not going to have a new conversation today. At the end of the day, we are, in fact, challenging if you understand what's really going on with the technology, we are not in control of every aspect of voting any longer. It's now managed by a third party, including Amazon, Jeff Bezos, okay? And to me, that concern is very serious. And we have more convenience, but it's a policy choice we make. We have a spectrum of how we do this. Nobody's being disenfranchised. We have 15 days of voting. We mail out ballots 21 days prior to the election. Military members 45 days prior. They can email them and fax them back. We have mail ballots. There's all kinds of ways to vote. So the idea that we're disenfranchised a voter because they don't have access to these 16 poll sites for 7 days is just not true. Thank you.
One further comment. You made that you said a majority of the Kansas counties don't use electronic poll books. That is true. There's 105 counties in Kansas. 17 of them, I believe you said, use them. Your 4 big counties, and including Douglas County, I know, where your population centers, the majority citizen number-wise, use them. So I would say a majority of Kansans use them, but not Kansas counties. Fair? Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Laura. Motion, was there a second to approve? No. I'm sorry? Yep. Okay. Commissioner Lopez seconds. Any other comments? Being none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
No.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Motion carries. Thanks, Joe, for all your work. Next item, please.
Consent agenda.
Good morning, Chairman of Commission Tom Stolz, County Manager. Recommend approval of consent items M through double letter AC this morning.
Okay. Commissioners, you had a chance to review the consent items. I'll make any other questions about them. I don't see any, so I will make a motion to approve consent item M through AC.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. No other questions. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez. Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Next item, please.
Legislative issues.
Hello, Tanya.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chairman Tanya Cole, Assistant County Manager. This morning for legislative update, this week in the legislature, it's all about conference committee meetings and trying to work through consensus or not on bill language. First adjournment is scheduled for tomorrow, Thursday, April 6th. For bills that we have been following, House Bill 2021, the Juvenile Justice Bill, that passed in the House. However, the Senate had issues with the extended detention time for juveniles. Those provisions were struck from the bill through a Senate amendment, and so with unanimous support from the Senate, it may be hard for the House to advocate for the reinsertion of that language if they choose to pursue that. We also know that some of the language from House Bill 2021 was inserted into Senate Bill 73. So we did have a discussion with Jason and Jessica on that just this Monday, so we are continuing to follow that. House Bill 2082, that's our county fund bill. That was supported by both the House and Senate, so that is on the way to the governor's desk. Yesterday in staff meeting, we did discuss Senate Bill 252, that is the government competition bill, and so we did provide testimony to the Kansas legislature yesterday. Additionally, we did discuss the Senate Concurrent Resolution 1610, which limits assessed valuation to no more than 3%, with the exception of that being new construction. And so, as was mentioned yesterday, we will keep an eye on that. Senate Bill 209, this is an election bill. This gets rid of the current 3-day grace period for mail-in ballots to be returned after Election Day and requires all advance voting ballots to be returned by 7 p.m. on Election Day. This passed both the House and the Senate, and so we will wait to see how the governor reacts on that, but we do anticipate that she will likely veto that. And so the legislature, once adjournment, they will return April 26th to override any bills that the governor vetoes, run an omnibus budget, and then tie up any loose ends. So I just might mention there's a lot happening and it's moving fast, and so we are staying engaged with Jason and Jessica. So happy to answer any questions and take any direction that you might have, and I know that you probably would like to make some comments on what's happening.
Okay, thanks for the update. I know we covered some of that stuff extensively yesterday as well, and it's moving quickly and hourly, so thank you for the update. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the legislative actions? I don't see any, so thanks again.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners.
Next item, please.
Committee reports.
Committee reports. Commissioners, do you have any thing to report from the committees that are served? Look at that way. Okay. All right. And then under next item, please.
Other.
Other. Does anybody have any comments related to other at this time? Okay, I don't see any. So at this time, we will recess the Board of Commissions and we will call to order the governing body of Fire District Number 1 for today, Wednesday, April 5th. Madam Clerk, next item.
Roll call. Commissioner Lopez.
Present.
Commissioner Dennis.
Present.
Commissioner Beatty.
Present.
Commissioner Howell.
Present.
Chairman Meitzner.
Present. Next item, please.
Public agenda.
Anybody from the public? We didn't receive any emails. Anybody from the public address on the fire agenda? I don't see any. So next item, please.
Consideration of minutes. Item A, fire meeting minutes of March 1, 2023.
Commissioners, if it's okay with you, I think we can combine item A and B, which is the fire meeting minutes of March 1st and 8th. If there's any questions, otherwise I'm going to make a motion that we approve item A and B together for the minutes.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. I don't see any other questions. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Next item, please.
Appointments. Item C, resolution appointing Gregory WILHITE to the Sedgwick County Fire Code Board of Appeals.
Okay, Mr. Papoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mike Papoon, County Councilor. The fire code, and we can take item C through H if it's the will of the board, because they're all appointments to this board. The Fire Code Board of Appeals is a very technical board in interpreting and governing appeals of our fire code, and that's why each position is generally fairly specifically set out by our resolution. And in addition, these are all general appointments by the Board of County Commissioners, not on the individual recommendations of county commissioners. Item C is a resolution requesting the appointing Gregory WILHITE as a registered architect to this board. He would be being reappointed to this board. Item D, Randall Coonrod, who's a structural engineer, and he would also be being reappointed to the board. Chief Williams has made all of these recommendations, by the way. Items E, F, G, and H are all new appointments. Item E is a resolution appointing Bo Means as a mechanical contractor to this board. Item F is a resolution appointing Spencer Tomlinson as a fire protection professional. Item G, resolution appointing Jay Russell as a general contractor to this board. And item H is a resolution appointing Scott Pennington, an electrical contractor. All of the resolutions are in proper form, and ask that you approve the resolutions.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Commissioners, so you see all the individual names that we are putting together as one motion. Is there any name that want to be discussed or pulled from this motion? If not, I will make a motion that we approve items C through H for the appointments.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Commissioner Howell.
Just a question. I'm not that familiar with this board. What do they actually do?
Well, Mr. Papoon just described him a second ago, but here comes.
I saw it. Chief Crisp out there. Good.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Brad Crisp, Fire Marshal, Sedgwick County Fire District Number 1. This board would hear matters that have come into question if they've been ruled on by the fire district for the purposes of building or construction or remodeling. Also, we've asked this board in the past to look at any amendments that we might make to the fire code to make sure that they make sense for the communities we protect and serve. And then, of course, to either support those or to make recommendations for changes to those amendments.
Do you know how many folks were in the pool of folks? Chief Williams made these 6 selections, but how many other folks were in that pool, and how do these people know about this board to apply for it?
Sure. So there have only been 7 people, I believe, that expressed interest. 1 withdrew. So the remaining 6 were all that had remained. We advertised it through social media. We had made many phone calls. I'd reached out to WABA as well as our partners in MABCD. I had gone and visited with the sitting Building Code Board of Appeals and visited with them about it as well. I've made numerous phone calls and email solicitations to various subject matter experts over the course of the last 4 to 5 months, trying to just get these 6 to be interested in this.
How many members are on this board?
There are 6 currently.
So this is the entire board here?
It is, yes.
Is this a 4-year term?
I believe it's a 3-year term.
3-year term?
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, I think I'll support the motion. I know they've proposed some things back to the county in the past that I wonder, the commissioner's not been involved early in the discussion, and we find out some very mature idea comes to us for a code change of some sort. And I guess a comment, I'd like to make sure the commissioners are aware of some of the things they talk about. If it's going to be a code change, I'd like to be able to weigh in a little bit earlier in the process. But it's just a frustration, but I'll support the motion. Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other comments? I don't see any. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez, Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
All right. Thank you, Chief, for the work on this.
Yes,
Okay. Next item, please. Wait. Oh, there are some members. Okay. We'll do the swearing in. Thank you, members, for sitting through this morning's meeting. We could have jumped you guys to the first of the meeting and saved you a couple hours.
You can both go down here. We'll do it twice. All right, please raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Kansas, and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Sedgwick County Fire District 1 Fire Code Board of Appeals, so help me God. I will. Congratulations. If you'd like to say anything.
Good. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Chief Chris and his team. Thank you all for everything you do.
Okay. Thanks for agreeing to serve on this. Appreciate it very much. Next item.
Other.
Is there anything other under the fire district? I don't see any. So with that, we will adjourn the fire district meeting, and we will resume the regular meeting of the Sedgwick County Commission. Next item, please.
Executive session.
Executive session. Commissioner Howe.
Mr. Chairman, we guess we need 40 minutes today. So,
I think it's 40.
Counselor Tapoon, did you say 40 minutes? Tanya, 40 minutes? I don't know where she's at. We're saying 40 minutes now, so that puts us to 12:15, if I understand that correctly. So I move that the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive session for 40 minutes till 12:15 for preliminary discussions relating to the acquisition of real property for the purpose of discussing the potential purchase of land and buildings for use by county departments, and that the Board of County Commissioners returns to this room from executive session at 12:15.
Second. Motion and a second for executive committee or executive session. Madam Clerk, please call a roll.
Commissioner Lopez. Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Beatty.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. We will adjourn to the, or recess to the executive committee upstairs. We'll be back at 12:15.
6, 5, 3, 1, and go.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We have returned from executive session. No action was taken. Is there anything else that needs to come before the commission this morning or this afternoon? I don't see any, so we will stand adjourned.